Welcome to True Health Tuesday, and the truth will set you free. Truth is a variable subject, though. Okay, tonight we're going to talk about genetic, because genetic and genetic expression, and that's huge. When you understand the difference, you're going to talk about disease and health. That's a whole different world. Now, we do have, all of this is going to be uninterrupted on the Dr. B VIP site. Those of you that are supporting this, I really appreciate it. They demonetized our channel 2 years ago. They've deleted a couple more videos last week because they're trying to get alternative information that I think that is important. But it's not a dialogue anymore. So if you like this video, share it, copy it, subscribe, and the power of the people will speak. I mean, we can really get this turned around. Now, if you're on the Dr. B VIP site, share the information. We're also Extreme Health Academy. I did a couple-hour talk with them. I do webinars at least once a month. Brilliant. And we're also on Odyssey. We're on the drjohnbergman.com site. We're on BitChute. We're on... Gosh, I think there's a couple others that we're on, but I mean, we're trying to hit everybody everywhere. So it's not as simple as when the internet was first going, where it was just, YouTube and Facebook. We're hitting everything, so we won't get wiped out. Now let's look at this. What are if you want to live long and healthy, okay, it'd be nice to know what's killing people. Okay, and here's, according to the Center for Disease Control, the 12 top leading causes of death. Heart disease, cancer, accidents, respiratory diseases, stroke, Alzheimer's, top 6. Now, it's interesting, 2020, there was a 40% reduction in heart attacks. No, they were listed. Don't you tell me, because this could be censored. Yes, they were listed as something else. No, we're not going to say that. Okay, but when we look at different plagues, I mean, the plague of Europe, Black Plague, 30% of the population died. 80% of everyone in the Western world is going to die of chronic illness. Now, chronic illness, we're going to cover that, because does that mean that the Western world is just genetically defective, that you're just not designed to live here? Now, we've got a country with about 330 million people. Now, on average, 7,700 people die every day. They do. That's what happens when you get 330 million people and they're eating a crappy diet and exposed to physical, chemical, and emotional stress. So that's around 2.9 to 3.1 million people die every year. That's every year. That's every year. That's 7,700 people die every year. So let's find out about that. Now, genetics is a study of hereditary. Now you're going to pass on genes, but you have 1,000 generation of people in you, okay, that have survived and thrived. If you got Northern European heritage, you were one of the ones that survived the Black Plague, okay, which is really cool. So you have this genetic memory. So this is going to be eye color, hair color, everything. Now you get 23 chromosomes from mom, 23 from dad. And so you have a mix of these. Now these chromosomes contain a DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. Now it's like a ladder. It's a double ladder. Now, if you've heard about the PCR test, what that is, that's half a ladder. And they put a fluorescent marker on there, and they put some different nucleotides in there like a magnet. So one is going to be a magnet to another. So they put a pattern in there. And of course, the PCR test that they're using for the current panic, it's not specific to that. This is why the president of Tanzania had a positive PCR test for a goat, and I think it was a papaya. The banana turned out negative. Okay, but just know that this is a DNA. It's like a ladder. Now, it's a blueprint. It's a blueprint for your cells. Now, you're going to produce, your body produces about 100,000 different proteins. And this is your protein factory. Your cells are unique, and you have around 70 trillion of them, and they got to take in nutrients, produce proteins, and eliminate waste products. So each protein is a machine. It's not like something like a protein powder. It has a structure and a function. And so your proteins are unique. So this cell is a protein producing machine. Now, there is a certain technology that's out that we can't talk about that suppresses whatever proteins that cell was producing and causes this to produce a certain protein. Okay. Did you see that? Did it kind of resemble like a spike? Okay, just checking. Okay, so, but we can't say that. So some proteins that you produce can cause cancer. Some proteins that you produce can reverse cancer. So isn't that odd that your body produces cancer? Your body can reverse cancer. And I love this comment. Genes load the gun, but epigenetics pull the trigger. See, blue eyes, blonde hair, that's not going to change. Well, the hair is going to change to gray, hopefully. The smarter I get, the more gray I get. Yeah, 20 more years, man, I'm going to be really freaking smart. Or really gray. Yes, you guys are both, all three, way smarter than me. Okay. So when you look at this, some misunderstandings, because you get these doctors that have idiopathic brains, okay? Idiopathic from the root word idiot. Where did it come from? We just don't know. You know, where's the most common cause of thyroid disorder? It's Hashimoto's. Where does that come? We just don't know. You know, we just don't know, like royalty plural. No. Okay, so now you may have heard that every aspect of biology is protected or can be predicted from the genes. That's false. That's not true. Single genes code for specific anatomical behavioral features. That's not true. Genes are a blueprint for an organism's form of behavior. That's not true. So none of these things are true. Genes are uninterrupted sections of DNA and only code for a single protein. That's not true. Now, the idea, and this was the idea way back in 1984, pharmaceutical industry, they're going to map the human genome. Now, you produce about 100,000 proteins, so there should be about 100,000 genes. Bitchin'. We're going to get this detailed out. We're going to map the Human Genome Project. Thought about in 84, started in 1990, finished in 2003. Now, the weird thing about this is that the drug companies funded this. Because if you have, let's say, the gambling gene, literally they were looking for it, okay? And you could prescribe a drug that would eliminate that, then you could fix the gambling habit. If you had the excessive shopping gene, okay? If you had the obsessive compulsive gene, if you had the thievery gene, okay? They were going to identify that gene and give you a drug to suppress it. Well, it didn't work out that way. Turns out that you have a little bit more genes than a fruit fly, a little bit less than a rat. No, I have not checked politicians. Don't even ask me about that, okay? They're kind of like in between. Some people. So now, remember, that project was done in 2003. Now, in 2000, they thought about genes. Now, is your future determined right now? Now, in 2000, Randy Jirtle and Robert Waterland, they took a goody mice. Now, these mice have been bred to be ravenous, hungry, and they've been bred. They're fat, they're yellow, they're predisposed to cancer and diabetes. So it's fantastic if you want to study disease. So you got these fat, cancer-ridden, disease-prone animals. And they thought, what if we feed the animal different? So what if we alter? Is there control above the genes? So they started to feed it garlic, onions, things like this before gestation. Then the mouse got pregnant, and the offspring were totally different. They were cool, they were brown, they weren't fat, they weren't ravenous, they weren't predisposed to disease. So just by changing the influence of that genes in that mom, changed the influence, it changed the expression of the genes in that offspring. Okay, does that sound wild? So it turns out that if you change, that there's a control above the genes. Now, Menelaus Kellis, it's the Epigenome Project. So what can control the genes? So if the genes aren't your destiny, they're not your future, and you can control them, what kind of effects can you have, or what kind of things can influence these genes? He says about 150 billion genome sequencing. So that there's a lot of things that can influence. So now, and this was Royal Society, sponsored by a drug company, GlaxoSmithKline. Mismanagement or disorganized epigenomes lead to disease. Epigenomes, that's control above the genes. Epigenome manipulation have a therapeutic value in diverse human disorders. Really, so what kind of things can alter? So if you have 1,000 generations of intelligence, of genetic makeup, and you're getting these things passed on through people that have survived, okay? So what kind of things can alter that genetic expression? Medications, it turns out. This can alter permanent changes in the epigenome. Holy moly. So we're talking that your body can express genes or express proteins that will fight cancer, and you can express proteins that will cause cancer. And these things can alter that expression. Now, this is a hard thing to come up with because since most of the advertisement and television stations are pretty much owned by the pharmaceutical industry, you're not going to find out that, oh my God, cholesterol lowering drugs, antidepressants, blood pressure, methotrexate, failed chemotherapy drug, anti-inflammatories, anesthetics, oral contraceptives, antibiotics can alter your gene expression, can control your genes. What was that? What would that lead to? Well, it could lead to heart disease, cancer. Oh my gosh. This looks like those 12 causes of disease that we saw, the 12 leading causes of death in America, doesn't it? Bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. So does that mean that you can express those genes and suppress them? So let's find out. Antibiotics weaken the immune system. Antibiotics induce changes, host metabolic, inhibit drug efficacy, and alter immune system function. Antibiotic treatment impairs immune system by inhibiting respiratory activity of immune system cells. Wow. So antibiotics can alter your expression. Steroids weaken your immune system. Last week when we talked about anxiety and stress, we knew steroids, and these are prescribed from a rash to asthma, can lead to mental disorders. Acetaminophen, aspirin, antipyretics weaken your immune system. A double-blind placebo-controlled trial studied the effects of over-the-counter antipyretics medications on viral shedding and immune system response and clinical status in the common cold. I'm sorry, you guys are really, really young. There hasn't been a common cold in 2.5 years. I'll show you some of the data on it. We can look up and discuss it later. No. Yeah, it's the Voldemort virus now. Okay, now what's interesting, they talk about viral shedding. Now, why? Now, think of this. Your response to a pathogen, to a common cold, to a virus, you develop a what? A fever, because viruses, funguses, bacteria die at a higher temperature. For every 1 degree increase in temperature, the speed of your immune system doubles. So a fever is a good response. So it turns out that altering your immune system response is not good. No, don't say duh. Okay, immune over inability, the spontaneous regression of cancer. Wait a second. Didn't we just say that your body can produce a protein that causes cancer and produce a protein that reverses cancer? Think of this. The spontaneous healing of cancer is a phenomenon that's been observed for hundreds and thousands of years, having been the subject of many controversies, is now accepted as an indisputable fact. When a review of past reports demonstrates that regression is usually associated with acute infections, fever, and immunostimulation. Wow. So does that mean that when I get a patient that says, I have cancer, and I say, oh, okay, where is it? And I'll denote whether it's right side of the chest, left side of the chest, pancreatus, intestinal tract, or where, because that's got to be a weakened immune system. Then I'll ask them, how would you like to handle this? Okay, do you want to strengthen your immune system? Okay, and help your body eliminate it, or do the cut, burn, and poison? Which is the common. Now, it's interesting. What do they say? Regression is usually associated with acute infections. So does that mean that our immune system is stimulated every time we get an infection? So that we shouldn't be afraid of these diseases and viruses, that we should just work on strengthening the immune system the way we're designed? Wow, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Spontaneous regression of cancers. Now, this is 2011. The word spontaneous implies without apparent cause, and regression is defined as a decrease in size of the tumor or in the extent of the cancer in the body according to the National Cancer Institute. Spontaneous regression of cancer is not a rare occurrence as thought to be. In an average month in 2002, medical journals published more than 4 articles on the subject. Let's look at another book, Dr. Kelly Turner, Radical Remission. Now, think of this, radical remission. That means that you're diagnosed with an abnormal cell growth. And because there's nothing spontaneous about these unusual cures, most patients are actively doing something to facilitate the healing. If the patients are actively doing something to facilitate the healing, remember, what happened? You formed a protein that caused cancer. Okay, cancer doesn't come from some mythical demon spirit that's attacking you. Okay, your body forms this based on some environmental stimulus. These people are reversing cancer by doing another environmental stimulus. Okay, am I going too fast? Okay, no. Okay, let's look at the 9 factors that they did. So, how do you express genes? How do you suppress genes? You do it radically changing your diet. That makes sense because there's a lot of carcinogens that we can eat, taking control of your health. Gee, I thought abdicating authority over my health, going up to a doctor and saying, please check me to make sure I'm healthy. Is my blood pressure okay? I don't know. I'm scared of the white jacket. Okay. Oh, you think my blood pressure should be lower. I should take a cholesterol and a diuretic and a beta blocker. Oh my God. Isn't that the stuff I just read that causes epigenetic changes? Please, doctor, help me. My pharmaceutical trained pill pushing Pez dispenser. Okay. No, that's foolishness. What other things? Follow your intuition. What do I tell my patients? The best doctor is inside of you. Okay, using herbs and supplements, obviously, because that's going to stimulate your immune system, releasing suppressed emotions. Physical, chemical, emotional stress. Have you ever heard me say that? Yes, because all are equally as important. You can address the physical without addressing the emotional. You are not going to get better. If you address the chemical without addressing the physical or the emotional, you're not going to get better. Increasing positive emotions. I would change that. Okay. Embracing social support, deepening your spiritual connection. Absolutely. Having strong reasons for living, wanting to be here. My gosh, these are the factors to alter genetic control. It alters control of the proteins you're expressing. You want to say it with me? Wow. That's cool. We just change our attitude, our physiology, and it works. Epigenetic mechanisms that underpin metabolic and cardiovascular disease. Wait a second. That was the leading cause of death, those 12 causes of death. Okay, so cardiovascular disease? Now, these considerations point to epigenetic processes as a key mechanism that underpins the development origins of chronic non-communicable diseases. Development plasticity enables an organism to respond to environmental cues and to adjust its phenotype development to match its environment. Amazing. So your stimulus that you're exposed to, so if you're exposed to the gym every day, fantastic, you're going to have certain genetics expressed. If you're exposed to the office every day, if you're exposed to the donut machine every day, do they have donut machines? I don't know. It's been a while since I've been in school. Okay. But if you're exposed to that is an environmental stimulus. That is an environmental stimulus. Mismatch between early and mature environments may result in an inappropriate pattern of epigenetic changes in gene expression that increase subsequent susceptibility to metabolic and cardiovascular diseases. Wow. You can eat and think yourself healthy or eat and think yourself sick. Are those 2 major factors? They are. In neurologic diseases. So that means that again, when you have a relative that has Parkinson's, has Alzheimer's, has Huntington's disease, multiple sclerosis, Lou Gehrig's disease, why did they express those genes? Why did they suppress the health genes? What environmental stimulus did they have? You know what I mean? So it requires, this is why 3 weeks ago I talked about the detective doctor. So he's looking at why you develop this. Epigenetics and its role in diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And we're looking at over half of our population with this. increasing evidence suggests epigenetic factors might regulate this complex interplay between genes and the environment and affect human diseases such as diabetes and its complications. It can't be this simple that your body is creating this based on the environment. The incidence of diabetes is growing rapidly. Also, the cost of treating the resulting complications. No kidding. Anybody that's in here, you probably don't remember that we used to call it childhood onset and adult onset. Okay? Because adult onset required years of poisoning in order to develop what we now currently call type 2 diabetes. Because one is you don't have enough insulin. That's type 1. It means an autoimmune condition that your pancreas has been damaged or some type of damage to that organ system so you can't produce enough insulin. The other one is you're producing plenty of insulin, but you have so much sugar that the cells, or much energy in the blood, that the job of insulin is to get that energy out of the blood into the cells. The cells are full. So they call it insulin resistant or type 2 diabetes. So it's literally a diet and stress problem. Now, are we exposed? If we know that all those medications I said have an epigenetic control, that they control your gene expression, do you think neurotoxin, a mineral chelator, and a patented antibiotic, which is used in almost every commercially produced grain product, the glyphosate, that's huge. We know that it's found, and that other genetically modified organisms, such as the BT corn, which I know you're thinking that why not develop a corn plant that has an insecticide as a pollen that destroys the digestive tract of an insect? What could possibly go wrong? Because we're only going to feed it to cows. Yes, you're right. People eat cows, okay? So now it's found in the umbilical cords of children. So it survived the cow's digestion, survived the cooking process, the mom's digestion, and now it's in our kids. Okay, anybody remember thalidomide? Okay, we're going to see a lot of that. Autoimmune conditions. Again, this is the Journal of Autoimmunity. Please, great God, what is it? The Ministry of Truth? Yeah, I forgot to take this one out. But autoimmune triggers. So it turns out that if you're going to express a human papillomavirus infection with a shot, and multiple sclerosis is associated with that, Guillain-Barré, a host of autoimmune diseases. And again, these things are expressed, the genetic expression. Now, we all have an automatic nervous system in two parts. One part is activated under physical, chemical, emotional stress, and we need that. That's what I need when we get up for exercise, and when the boat is heeling over and you're scared, the water's coming in. You need that sympathetic dominant. Okay, when you're speaking before a large group, you need that sympathetic dominant. Okay, the parasympathetic is the rest, digest, and repair. So our health is based on a balance of those autonomic nervous system. Now, this nervous system is literally located, the parasympathetics, in the neck and in the pelvis area. The sympathetics in the rib cage area. So doesn't that seem odd that if you go to a doctor and they diagnose you with high blood sugar, high blood pressure, cholesterol issues, bowel issues, they're not going to look for your body adapting correctly based on the stress? I mean, yeah, you got inflammatory bowel disorder because you're in a chronic state of stress. So let's address those stressors. No, you're not going to hear that because there's not critical thinking, obviously. 6 out of 10, and this is the health that your government and your pharmaceutical industry and your TV and the food and everything is expressing in our population. 60% of our population is expressing a chronic illness or disease, such as heart disease, cancer, COPD, strokes, and Alzheimer's. 60%. 40% have more than one, have a couple of them. So is this bad luck, bad genes, or horrific environmental stimuli? Is it complete lack of education that people are not addressing this? Do you understand? So when somebody says, oh, you have the BRCA gene, that means cancer runs in your family. Okay, well, I can name 5 relatives that have the same gene that don't express it. So can you tell me, doctor, what I can do to express health instead of expressing disease. Here's what you can do. The blue zones, okay? We're not reinventing the wheel here. Although we should sure as hell reinvent our government and our medical institution, okay? But let's look at people that live over 100 consistently. Does that make sense? Makes sense to me. Okay, so what are the blue zones? Now, these are, I mean, there's a lot more than the 6 blue zones that they picked, but there's areas around the world where people consistently live over 100. You know people that live over 100. Your great-grandparents probably lived to over 100 if they avoided the war. Okay? Moderate, regular physical activity. That means you move every day. Every day. A buddy of mine's got a 98-year-old aunt in Greece, and she carries a bucket of water up the hill every day. That's how she got to 98. Okay? Life purpose. You got a reason to get out of bed. What is that? That's emotional stability. This is having a reason. He is happiest who has found his place to serve mankind. That's Albert Schweitzer. Okay, so you got a reason to get up. Stress reduction. It's not stress reduction, it's stress handling effectively. And there's only 3 of them. It's physical, chemical, and emotional stress. You deal with those effectively. Moderate calorie intake. So you're not taking in excessive calories, which turn into triglycerides, which thicken up the blood, which can damage the arteries. These are people that are not eating packaged foods. 20% of them still smoke, but 20% of them grow their own tobacco. Okay? So plant-based diet. Plant-based diet. I got so many people, animals are good for you. Plant-based means based in plants. Okay? You can eat animals. There's no vegan cultures on the planet, but there are vegetarian cultures. But they'll get animal protein from insects, from dairy, from a bunch of things. But for God's sake, healthy animals. It's good for you. Moderate alcohol intake. There's one group in there that are teetotalers. The rest have a little bit of alcohol. Moderate doesn't mean just 1 bottle of wine a day. Heck, and where is it? I think it's Sicily. Sicily, they drink 7 liters of red wine a month. Damn, I couldn't do that. And I got Northern European heritage. Okay, engage in spirituality or religion. So you think about something beyond you. Engage in family life. You get a connection. So engage in social life. So all of these things you can see during this, God, I almost said pandemic. Okay, you can see during the last 2.5 years that none of this stuff was implemented. Okay, none of this. I mean, in fact, the opposite was. So when we put up to maximize your life on this planet, you can't really say reverse disease because you're really creating it based on your perception of the environment and your genetic expression. You need healthy nerve supply. If you're in a chronic stress state, you're not going to live. You're not going to produce healthy proteins. You need to get it checked. You need healthy exercise. Why? Just because the blue zone people do it? No, because you move every joint. If you move a body and you strain a muscle, and that's called stress, you get healthier. Proper nutrition. This means that man make it, you don't need it. Okay, you eat like your great-great-grandparents did. Sufficient rest. How many people with a chronic illness or disease wake up and say, God, I slept good? None. None. Sleep is when your body regenerates. Okay, and prayer and meditation, we know this is like so important. You get a connection, but when you're praying, the body is more energy than matter. We can measure energy on the dark field microscopy. It's a trip. And this is why, because it's stuff we don't understand yet. But when you get an arrogant and ignorant doctor that says, well, this is what science says. Okay, great. Let's look at what science is going to say in another 50 years. Because 50 years ago, you guys were friggin' idiots. Okay, what do you think they're going to say 50 years from now? That mask looks so dorky. Okay, so we take our world back. We take our world back by taking charge of your own health and your own genetic expression. Does that make sense? Now, we're going to get into something dangerous now. Dangerous because it's information. We used to live in a country that valued freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of expression. That is no longer the case, okay? you.